Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of RE046, where I take old videos and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called They Don't Know, written by Uruwen. They don't know. They really don't know. The thought won't leave my brain as I lie here in my dorm bed. There's a sound of mildly concerned chatter outside my door, but I pay it no heed. I can't properly concentrate on anything other than the distressing truth I have learned this evening. Growing up, I was always a little bit strange for a plovel, the daredevil of my mild-mannered peer group. When I was invited to spend a year as an exchange student at an Earth school, I immediately accepted. A Deathworld, I naively crowed to my friends. It would surely be an adventure worthy enough to prove my higher level of intrepidness once and for all. I could barely contain my excitement on the long interstellar bus ride here. I was practically bouncing in my seat. So eager was I to prove that one of the meek little plovers could stand as an equal amongst the humans. Then I actually arrived here, and shortly thereafter, things began to unravel. Everyday life became a struggle. Their world was full of smells, soaps, perfumes, deodorants, detergents, and more. They layered haphazardly on each person, clashing in ways I couldn't even begin to describe to those back home. But it was when the humans gathered in mass that the true olfactory horror that this world began to show itself. Classrooms were bad enough, with the warring scents and scenes sufficient to make me struggle to pay attention to the lesson. The hallways, though, were absolute nightmares. Every step, whether it was my own or merely someone passing near me, brought a new barrage of odors to my nose. Their world was full of colors and noises, too. Advertising playing on what seemed like every corner, yes, even within the school itself. And it was carefully crafted to draw the less able eyes of humans, though I had seen each local commercial hundreds of times by the end of the first week. If I was traveling alone, I would still find myself trapped by its beckoning, flickering, musical call. I was physically unable to turn away until I had watched the entirety of the short clip every single time. Between the unending sights and the unceasing smells, I was consistently late for my classes and consistently distracted during them, until I made a few friends of my own, Greg, Philip, and Olivia. I owe them so much. Between the three of them, their courses overlapped all of mine. They took me under their metaphorical wing to make sure that I could skirt around the dreadful distraction beacons of advertising, or at least be led past it by a firm but helpful hand, and offered me devices to plug into my nose so that I could avoid the barrage of smells around me. Sure, they were strong enough that they could have accidentally hurt me with a careful swing of an arm, but they always were cautious. Sure, they ate things during lunch that made me turn strange colors or caused me to have trouble breathing. But once we had identified what those things were, they took care to consume them elsewhere in the lunchroom. Sure, the campus was sprawling, and I was exhausted after a day of tracking to and from classes. But they were such caring people that they literally picked me up and carried me around so that I could, in some small way, participate in their excursions and parties. They took me to anything and everything, seemingly in search of discovering what I might like. Though I told them that I already knew what I enjoyed. They then claimed to be on that same quest themselves, and I sadly confess now that I never gave that admission the proper weight back then. They are wonderful friends. I never really appreciated how terrifying they truly were until they invited me to come along to something called a circus. This particular circus, they explained to me, showcased nothing but performing humans. Having seen what my untrained classmates could accomplish during gym class, I was excited, and more than a little curious, about the idea of seeing what humans could do with a little more practice. I naively thought that they put on shows like this to entertain their interstellar guests. As we queued up to enter the venue, I quickly noticed that the number of people in the crowd who clearly came from elsewhere, as did I, comprised of only about, to my best guess, 10% of the attendance. The rest, they were all human. Perhaps a human trait was enjoying the success and abilities of their fellow humans. I remember being in the middle of contemplating that thought as my friends and I found our seats. Not long after, the lights dimmed, the music started, and the show began. Try as I might, I cannot accurately describe the things I saw, the things I heard. The humans on stage moved in ways I could not begin to fathom, bending and stretching in ways that made them seem boneless. They leapt and soared as though they had some secret means to negate the effects of gravity. They jumped and tumbled from platforms to teammates to platform with the same calm, regular assurance as I did when I put one foot in front of another while walking. Their precision was incredible, their reach was true, and their stage presence unfathomable. And all was perfectly set to a beautiful lilt of music. With every leap, with every throw, with every surprising twist of a body, I found myself joining the crowd in every reactionary gasp. The amazed gasps of the predominantly human crowd, the sudden realizing of this fact, managed to pull me partly from the mesmerizing spell taking place on the stage. With a great effort, I remembered turning to Olivia, Greg, and Philip. A cold chill slid down my spine as I saw upon their faces the same rapturous amazement I was feeling, though at the time I confess I did not understand why. The reason only truly dawned on me afterwards, during the friendly chatter between the four friends as we head back to the dorms. It was Philip who said that once again caused an icy shiver to race down my back. "Did you see the way the contortionists swiveled their spine? I swear, I didn't know that was humanly possible." Was that meant in a literal fashion? Surely not. I didn't want to believe it, but then other snippets of conversation around me started echoing the same thing. "How in the world did the acrobats manage that leap?" "A knife juggler? That was how many knives? How? How did they do that? How?" The words of the humans, speaking of incredulity and praise and amazement, seemed to grow until it completely filled my ears with the exclusion of everything else. The roar of the conversation was matched by the shrieking of my rapidly growing fears. My stomach sank to somewhere around my heels, and after giving my three friends an admittedly brief and possibly offending goodbye, I hastened back to the sanctuary of my room. And now I lie here in bed, the implications of the words I heard echoing around my brain. As a ploval, I know what I can and cannot do. I know where my talents lie. I also have an innate sense of what my fellow plovals can accomplish. I can be proud of one of my brethren, or be surprised that a particular friend showed a particular talent. But the extent of said talent will not throw me into confusion and wonder. Humans, it turns out, do not have an innate sense of their capabilities. They have to reach out to the world around them, trying anything and everything in a desperate and blind attempt to find what they are good at. A human can potentially, probably easily, impress another to the point of amazement with a random skill. They literally don't know what they're capable of. My friends are kind, and I know they would likely never deliberately harm me, but they don't know what they're capable of. They don't know. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.